Okay, good morning, and thank you to both Alistair and Alan for that introduction. I was a little bit nervous watching them while they're speaking, because what might not be clear from the back of the room is that about 2 inches to my left is a 15-inch drop to the floor. So I'm going to try really hard not to fall off the stage while I'm talking to you this morning. I thought it might be useful just to provide a little bit of background about who I am and why I'm here this morning. I personally find it quite useful when somebody's speaking to an audience just to know their background. But also, child mining might not be an obvious subject for a STEM conference. In terms of who I am, I took up post in April of this year. My background's predominantly been in sort of the third sector and the health sector. Most of my work has been spent advocating evidence-based practice and policy. One of the first things I'd say is that I'm new to child mining and I'm new to the children's sector. So it's been quite a steep learning curve in terms of actually just sort of starting to understand what's going on in our sector. But one of the things that really motivates me is I'm passionate about making a difference. I like to have a reason to get up in the morning. I like to be able to make a difference at a basic level. And when you're appointed to a new role, you go through the normal round of PR. But I want to draw attention to one of the messages that have been really key and important. I feel it's important to articulate. From my point of view, child mining is an extremely unique and valuable form of childcare, but it's not valued, it's deeply misunderstood. And that's something that attracted me to the role. I want to change that. So in some ways, I almost feel that rather than my choosing child mining, so child mining chose me. In terms of the organisation that I work for, as Alan mentioned, we're the only organisation in Scotland dedicated to supporting child mining. Now, I'd make the distinction that we support child minding as well as child minders. We're a membership organisation. We have approximately 4,000 members in Scotland. But we also support local authorities and the Scottish Government to develop the practice of child minding and to improve and maintain the quality. As a membership organisation, we provide a range of professional support to our members through professional learning to a range of internal and external events. But I think it's useful to actually step back and consider what is child mining. Particularly, you quite legitimately think, what can Graeme tell me? He's new in post. So when I consider, what is it that's important about child mining, it's useful to actually step back and look at the evidence base underpinning what we're doing. Child mining, first of all, is unique in the sense that it provides a quality childcare experience in a home setting. It's not in a hall, it's not in a nursery setting. But it also has one of the highest ratings of inspection by any childcare provider type in Scotland. All childcare providers, including child mining, are independently inspected by the Care Inspectorate. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail shortly. But we also have the lowest adult-to-child ratios of any form of childcare in Scotland. And that's hugely important in terms of the one-on-one support you can offer to children. As a childminder, you can care for no more than 6 children at any one time. No more than 1 child under 12 months, no more than 3 under primary school age, and no more than 6 in total. But when you also look at the evidence, one of the things that's really strong about child mining is it creates an opportunity where children of different ages, from birth through to 12, can play and learn together. And the evidence is showing that to be very beneficial in terms of enhancing early learning, confidence and development. Child mining also increases parental choice. Some parents have a preference for children to go to nursery, some prefer for childcare to be delivered in a home setting, or a mix of both. But also importantly, child mining is underpinned and follows the same health and well-being indicators as other forms of childcare in schools in Scotland. So both educationally and at a care perspective, the same quality underpins what we do. Child mining is very flexible. It can be blended with other forms of care, and it's also going to be eligible to be included in the Scottish Government's flagship expansion of early learning and childcare. And again, I'm going to go into that in a little more detail within the presentation, just to provide added context. It's quite useful to step back and look at some of the statistics. Currently, we have just under 4,800 childminders in Scotland. Our childminders care for just under 33,000 children. And as the slide shows, it's roughly about 13 to 14% of the childcare market in Scotland. When you look at the inspection ratings from the Care Inspectorate, consistently 92% of childminders achieve quality ratings of good or higher across all quality criteria, and that is through independent inspection by the Care Inspectorate. But statistics only tell you so much. And it's quite useful to contextualise what that actually means. So not all of you will be able to see, there's an illustration here to the right of the screen. On the right hand of that, you'll see the 92% statistic for childminders and our quality ratings. On the left hand side, you see what is termed as daycare of children. This is an aggregated term. What that includes is local authority nurseries, private nurseries, creches and after school clubs. And childminding consistently achieves higher quality ratings than all of those other care providers put together. And that's something that fascinates me. It's a fact that I don't think is widely known, and it's something we need to get out there and be more affirmative about. In terms of childminding and ELC, to bring you up to speed on what's happening, the Scottish Government is very ambitious at this stage. We have a flagship policy known as Early Learning and Childcare. What that means in real terms is that by August of next year, the Scottish Government has undertaken to deliver 1,140 free hours of childcare to parents of every 3- and 4-year-old in Scotland and to some 2-year-olds. Now, linked to that, we obviously want to ensure that the quality is there across providers who are delivering ELC. So there's many common criteria across provider types, including nurseries, childminding. But when it comes to childminding, there's a set of specific criteria. So if childminders want to deliver these free hours to parents, first of all, they have to complete an induction programme, which SCMA supports and delivers. They then have to have demonstrated that they've either obtained or are starting to work towards a benchmark qualification. And this is consistent across the early years sector. Now, in parity with other providers, they have 5 years to complete that qualification. In terms of where the benchmark sits, it's an SCQF Level 7 qualification with 68 credits. As I mentioned earlier, all childminders must achieve a care inspectorate grading of good or better, and they also must undertake a minimum of 12 hours of continuing professional learning a year. So this is really the basis on which the national standard has been developed to try and provide consistent sort of quality criteria across the sector. Now, you'll hear me speaking a little bit about transition this morning, but childminding itself is a workforce or a profession that I believe is also in transition. I find there's a fascinating dynamic. On the one hand, childminding as a workforce is consistently attracting very high quality inspection ratings. But when we look at the qualifications within the workforce, we'd estimate that perhaps only 30 to 40% of childminders have what would be the equivalent of a benchmark childcare qualification. So the next point I might make, it could be perceived as being a bit heretical to an education audience, but it's very easy to connect quality with qualifications. But if qualifications are in the minority in the case of the childminding workforce, what is it that's actually delivering that quality? What's contributing to the quality? And that is something that we are very keen to understand and capture. So in terms of when we look at the childminding workforce, the first thing that we're aware of is there's a significant amount of life experience that childminders bring to the sector. They're a highly experienced workforce, very diverse range of backgrounds. Yes, we have some childminders who've worked in nurseries and other early years settings, but we also have primary school teachers, we have bankers, we have project managers, we have a number of staff who've worked in other sectors prior to coming into childminding. When you look at what is a common entry point to childminding, it's generally around when they start their own family. So it could be when a mother or a father has their first, their second, their third child, and they're starting to step back and assess, first of all, what are my own childcare requirements? And then also starting to assess the need to earn an income to support your family. But also, what we find is a lot of childminders are starting to reassess their life at that point. They're perhaps looking for a change in career. They're looking to do something a bit more rewarding, a bit more fulfilling. They're looking for an improved work-life balance. So there's a lot of factors around that. So what we tend to find is that with childminders that you have a workforce of people who are actively seeking retraining, but also looking to apply the life experience they have in a different context. The other point of commonality is that many childminders recognise the guilt that some parents can experience. After you've started a family, you're faced with going back to work to generate an income. A lot of parents feel guilty about that. So what childminders are motivated by is trying to deliver as close to a family childcare experience as possible for parents who are not able to do that. In terms of our members, about 70% of our members have been childminding for over 5 years, and about 45% for over 10 years. What we are looking to do is to try and help our workforce obtain the qualifications necessary so that they can participate within the expansion of early learning and childcare. What we've been keen to do is to develop a work-based award, which importantly recognises the prior learning that childminders have undertaken and gained at an experiential level. One of the challenges we face is that many childminders may have been away from formal education for many years. They may lack the confidence to undertake a formal education qualification. They might not be familiar with undertaking reflective learning, reflective practice. So what we've tried to do is to build confidence in this group and to provide an access path towards benchmark qualification to help this skilled workforce obtain the qualifications that they need. So we've worked with the SQA. The SQA have mapped our work-based award against SVQ3, and we've developed a work-based award which provides about 35% of the equivalent of the benchmark qualification. And the credits that they attain cover a range of areas, from childminding and business, through child development, or through GIRFEC, with which many of you may be familiar in an educational setting. As I mentioned earlier, we also, as a workforce, support a wide range of transitions. Childminders care from children from birth through to 12, and in some cases up to 16 years. So we're able to support transitions, first of all, attending nursery, attending primary, progressing to high school. But a lot of the work we do is hidden. A lot of the work is involved in also supporting children who have requirements for additional support for learning. And again, one of the things that attracts parents to childminding, who understand childminding, is the low adult-to-child ratios that we have, because our childminders can provide intensive one-on-one support to children with additional support needs that might be more challenging in a setting where you have higher staff ratios. To put this in context, what that really means is that in some cases you may have a family which is quite keen for the child to attend nursery. They'll have an introductory meeting with nursery staff. The nursery staff perhaps feel that child is not ready to attend nursery. Now, it could be linked to additional support needs, or it could just be a child who might struggle to adapt to a larger setting. Where we have good relations with nurseries, what can often happen is that nurseries will put parents in touch with childminders, and the childminder can work in collaboration with nurseries. So the childminder can work on a one-on-one basis with a child, supporting their needs. And in many cases, that intervention and support from the childminder at a personal and familial level can be the difference in a child, first of all, attending mainstream nursery, and more importantly, continuing in mainstream nursery. So again, we can actually make a real difference with that. So given the information I'm presenting this morning, it may not surprise you that at a national level we're extensively involved in looking at how we can support transitions at various points throughout educational life. And earlier this year we were the co-producer of a national position statement with a number of other parties. And what we're really trying to do was to establish some common principles and practice that should underpin each stage of transition in a child's life. In terms of SCMA and SSERC, clearly that's the main reason why I'm here this morning, and hopefully it will provide some added relevance and context for you. The first thing I'd like to say to Alistair and his staff is that I genuinely do believe that the collaboration we have between SCMA and SSERC is a market-leading partnership within the early years sector in Scotland. So far, we've been successful. We've submitted 2 joint funding applications to Education Scotland for STEM funding. So that's in the region of £47,000. There's a further application and award pending. In real terms, what we're actually doing is developing a range of continuing professional learning modules on STEM for childminders, and then delivering those free to those childminders. So in terms of the current phasing, we're aiming to deliver these modules to about 380 childminders. But we also have undertaken to arrange of network meetings. Now, what a network meeting is that at a national and local level, we will facilitate contact between groups of childminders. Childminders are sole workers. What we'll aim to do is to sort of bring them together, and we'll have thematic events. So we're hosting a series of events around STEM so that childminders can then start to apply this in their practice. We've also developed an activity pack, which I'm going to show you. But importantly, this also includes family learning, because from our point of view, yes, we can influence practice in terms of childminders engaging activities with children, but we also want to go one stage further. We want to develop resources and activities that families can replicate in a home setting. So that's really important to us. Much of our content can be downloaded, and we've also developed a promotional video to support this. So you'll see here examples of the material from our activity pack, where we're contextualising what STEM is. We're covering how you can use it with your senses and with sound, but you'll also see importantly within on each page and in each setting, we're again demonstrating how you can use this in a family setting so that it doesn't just become an educational activity. Again, this goes on, science, inquiry skills and outdoors. Another piece of hidden work within childminding is the extent to which childminders engage in outdoor activity. Yes, we have to undertake the same risk protocols and assessments as any nursery, but it's so much easier for a childminder to take out a small group of children and engage in external environmental activities which can support learning. And this is something that is largely hidden but is very much core to childminding and is not widely known beyond the sector. And if you'd ask me why it works so well, we were trying to contextualise within the promotional video we produced that when we sit down with childminders and explore the reasons behind this, when you ask them, have you looked at how objects float in water? Have you baked cakes with your children? Have you built junk models? Or have you counted out play money? So childminders are actually engaging in STEM activities without it being presented as STEM. And that's one of the things that's really important to us, that childminding is already engaging in extensive activities which are core and mainstream. It's not an additional requirement we're asking them to do. And in terms of how our partnership is working, I believe it supports learning on 3 different levels, and that maximises the benefit you can get from that one funding stream. At an individual level, we're supporting learning in early years children, which is key to what we're trying to do. But we're also supporting learning in professionals through the resources that we're developing for our childminders. But equally, as Alistair had alluded to earlier, there's been a valuable opportunity to engage in partnership working at an organisational level, and we're learning from that experience. From our point of view, the work that we're doing on STEM has potential for much wider replication. But it's really interesting, as you see, some of you might recognise Ewan Mitchell, the early years lead here from SSERC. Ewan kindly gave up his Saturday in September to speak at our annual conference, and he delivered a workshop twice, morning and afternoon. But the feedback we got in that workshop was incredible. It was by far and away the most well-received event on the day. And a lot of that came down to the hands-on interactive elements. Childminders were able to learn examples of activities which they could immediately go away and apply in their practice. And that's where we feel that the resources that we are developing jointly with SSERC really stand out. There's lots of STEM resources on the market, but what consistently comes back to us is we're delivering hands-on value in terms of how these resources can be used in a range of settings. So in summary, I've probably spoken for long enough this morning. I might be in danger of overrunning. Hopefully, I will have convinced you that childminding is a high-quality form of childcare. And that's largely down to the fact that we have such low adult-to-child ratios. And when you combine that with the opportunity for children of different ages to play and learn together, those in a combined manner can really help to enhance children's development. So we support children at different transition stages, but it's coming back to the core. Much of what we do in childminding is core work to us. It's not something we have to add on and take further. Finally, I'd just like to add that I genuinely do believe that the work we're doing around STEM, but also childminding as a form of childcare, has tremendous potential for development in Scotland. So, thank you.